My sister accused me of the unthinkable. This completely ruined my life where we live since it's such a small town. But guys, the secret that she told was not only a lie, it was devastating to every single aspect of my life, and I will seek my own revenge.
Well, I'm 25 and male, and I didn't have the best relationship with my sister. But I always felt we could still work things out. It started when my mother would bring us presents and she would hide them whenever we were supposed to share. Emily would first agree to do so, and then after a few minutes, she would change her general attitude and just start crying loudly, citing that I've beaten her. We were still young, and so none of it seemed to be so serious at the time. I thought they were just stupid games until we both became teenagers and issues escalated. You see, Emily started coming up with lies and making me look really bad before my parents, and it started to affect me emotionally, mentally, and even academically. Before, I was a bright student who always stood out. My teachers spoke highly of me until Emily started feeling threatened by my performance, and siblings' competition erupted between us without even my knowledge. We were both different in classwork. Whatever I felt was easy was somehow challenging to her. But instead of working towards a better understanding, he became envious of me and jealousy started. Honestly speaking, I never saw it coming, and so when I noticed Emily was struggling to cope in school, I spared time to teach her a few things and make her learning experience at school simply enjoyable. I was a proud big brother, helping her solve her mathematic questions, but after some time I noticed strange things about her. You see, she became more aggressive and would often say I was only trying to outshine her before our parents. Truth is, I was never doing it for selfish gains. I was just helping her, but she looked at it so differently. Despite our loving mother trying to change her behavior by disciplining her, she continuously played the victim in my father's presence, who started taking sides, and that made me lose my sanity. I felt like he didn't care about me as his son. All the while, my favorite cousin Jackie observed from a distance and on several occasions pointed out openly that my sister was in fact mean. She said that Emily needed to be stopped, but again, who would dare now that she was my father's favorite? And a teenager. I thought you all didn't know that. I would have done you the honor of reintroducing Her Highness, she said sarcastically when she overheard us from the balcony. She felt like she was untouchable and that everyone else was supposed to give her a free pass. Well, the fact that she was just passing by when we talked about her with Jackie made her hatred for us even more. Judging by the sudden change in her, we knew that she would do something to get back at us for talking about her. Days passed, and then alas, it was her 16th birthday. As usual, the day was different, with our parents bringing in more gifts for her, but even with all the presents, Emily felt they did not meet her expectations. She wanted a Gucci handbag, and the fact that it wasn't there, everything else was just a diversion and a waste of her time. "Why are you sad, my princess?" Father said. "She's fine, she always is," Mom said, and we turned to her what she was whining about. It was obvious what had happened that day was below her expectations. She was a princess, and she deserved the world, huh? We thought all was cool, but after the birth, she found me in the living room one afternoon and shared with me a secret, as she put it. I was still naive and was hoping that my little sister was back to her senses after realizing I was no longer arguing with her over anything anymore. "I like your friend. See there, I shared a secret with you." That's what she said, and I just laughed at her. "You're mistaken, my dear sister. He is among the worst boys in school." Well, I thought I had to remind her while she was laughing, and she was not into such boys, and my friend would never dare break the bro code. What I came to know was she was trying to create a conversation, and I gave in. She asked me if I could let her use my computer, and I agreed. I didn't think she would do anything that would bring me more problems than I already had. Thanks, bro. Well, a few weeks passed, and then one day, I heard Dad calling from downstairs. He was angry. I stood next to Jackie as I waited for him to tell us why he was so angry at us.
Which one of you used my debit card?
He asked while suspiciously looking at me. Well, I wanted to ask Mother, but then I remembered that the day was not those days he took sarcasm lightly. There was no way Mom was involved because one of us was the culprit and I was not it. As deafening silence continued amongst us, I heard somebody speak from the back. It was Emily. Why on earth would anyone use Dad's MasterCard to buy things for their girlfriend? What? The question took me to my knees, and I begged my father, swearing that I would never do anything like that. Someone had used his card and bought stuff online worth a lot of money. He was angry, and in the end, a punishment came in handy. Dad believed her, that I used the card, and even backed her argument that the items were bought using my computer. I was heartbroken, and the only people who seemed to understand my struggles were Jackie and my mom. You can't lie forever. One day you'll be caught, and you'll wish that the world to swallow you, Jackie told her. Get your ugly face out of my room. She screamed at her and wanted Dad to warn her. There were many complaints, and she insinuated that we were arguing against her. Emily said that she felt like she did not even belong here, something that my mom cautioned her about. There's no way she could act so special that all of us just expect her to treat her well. No, it doesn't work like that. You're lucky they haven't slapped the madness out of your head. You're just always looking for trouble. It's like you're addicted to it. You think I haven't noticed? Mother said, and, well, her words came out as a relief for me and Jackie. We were glad we had somebody notice the injustices for once, and we were experienced and believed that sooner than later, Dad would also see and act accordingly. For years, I maintained my distance and only spoke to my father when it was absolutely necessary. We became strangers, but then it did not take long before my father started suspecting that my sister was stealing from her. I'd gone to visit my grandma, and when I was away, the online buying continued. She bought a phone and lied that she had saved enough for it. It didn't make any sense. Not to father or anybody else for that matter. I remember that morning when Jackie called me. She was sounding jovial, and so I listened in. She said that Emily had used the card again, and this time around, Dad knew it had not been me all along. Uncle Robert asked her how it's possible you're still using his card, yet you left your computer here, and she didn't know what to say. I'm telling you, she was in hot soup. Well, I wanted to jump up and down in excitement, but then I felt like I had no reason to. I had taken the longest time for Dad to even give me a second doubt. He had believed her, yet he knew she was just a cunning young woman. For that reason, he did not even throw her a 20th birthday, and that made her sad. Well, Emily blamed me for her predicament and went on to threaten me that whatever she was planning to do would take me by storm. I knew I hadn't told Dad anything, and so when she made those threats, I was not scared. I told her to do her worst, not knowing what she was actually planning to send me to the ground. Well, this time for good. At first, I was still brave even after coming back from Grandma's house, but then, when I got home, I noticed that she had become overly calm, and that made me suspicious. She's changing, Mom said, and I laughed. People like her don't change. Well, maybe she changed. Only a fool doesn't change his ways. That's what she argued, but I didn't say a word. All I could think about was the possibility of what Mom was saying. It would really make a lot of difference if it was all true, but I was just too cautious to fall for yet another lie.
Or maybe I thought I was.
I was still juggling between truth and lies, and the picture Emily was trying to portray was out of imagination. She was sweet and caring towards me. In all ways, she was better, and I started to slowly fall her way. We became close, and though sometimes she seemed manipulative, I still felt the need to allow her to mend our strained relationship.
Nothing was irreversible.
A lot of things could change for the better if I allowed myself to see the good, or at least the acknowledgement of her efforts. That's what my mother would say.
Wait, she did say.
So what are you still, my cool brother? Emily said one day, and her words sent me back to the childhood days when I treasured her like life. She was a charming young girl who I pictured myself holding hands in the hallway and across the streets. Well, she did allow me to enjoy that until she grew older and seemed to want her space. At the time, my heart raced back to those days when love was genuine, and when family meetings meant family bonding and not sideshows. When love was easily spread without strain and people genuinely cared about what other people felt. Those were the days when love was all that mattered and blood relations made the bonds unbreakable. Or maybe it was just an imaginary kind of thing that I desired. Maybe it was just the same as it is now, and I was probably too naive to even notice it.
I can't tell.
All I know is what we had going on was not easy to tell what exactly it was.
Maybe it was love. Maybe it was hate, or both. Well,
I guess in her basket she had lots of plans. First love, and then hurt. She really had a lot to her dismissal, including wickedness, which she intended to share with me plenty. Before I knew it, it was time to unleash it, and she braced herself well to punish me in the days that were ahead, and made my life a living hell unknowingly. I was carried in her lies and was enjoying every minute of the togetherness. Little did I know, she was planning something far worse than all the previous incidents. It all started one Friday evening. I was out checking the flowers when I saw her dressed up, and so I thought she was probably going out for a date. She also did that on Fridays, and I remember just how she walked to me and asked me to get something from her room. She seemed to be in a hurry. I was happy to help, as I thought that she finally understood that she had made my life a living hell already and was making amends. I was still hoping she was a changed young woman, but woe unto me. She was still my evil sister who would settle for nothing until she saw me suffer. I sometimes think that my pain triggered a happy bone in her system. I don't know how she managed to get back to the room after asking me to get something from in there, but when I opened the door, I found her looking at herself in the mirror, and I engaged her. I had so many questions, and even wondered if I was suffering from a loss of memory, because I had seen this same woman out there, and she asked me to get something from her room. Yet, now she was seated in her room doing her thing, wondering what I was doing there. "Oh, I thought you were outside the house, in the garden.
You sent me to get you something. How come you're here?"
I asked, feeling confused, and she stared at me in disgust and let out a high-pitched cry that made all the family members come down the stairs only to find me startled at her door.
I was torn between running and staying, but since I had not done anything wrong,
I chose to stay.
The young woman continued to scream.
The cry went past the thick corridors, and literally every single person heard. They got there in time and wanted to help in any way that they could. My father pushed me aside and walked straight to their little precious daughter, who was still screaming while just pointing at me. I was caught unaware, as I've done nothing wrong at all. "What's wrong, sweetheart? What happened?" my father asked while looking at me. I could tell by the look he gave me that he was thinking I had slapped his only daughter. I honestly thought she would say that too. "It's him, Daddy. He was touching me,"
she screamed. My mother was standing next to me, and when she heard that, she almost slapped me. She was filled with rage, thinking I had committed the gravest sin.
They never turned or bothered to know my story, but they asked their daughter to tell them all the details, and
Oh boy, she did.
my parents did not want the public to know. But Emily was just so determined to put me down, and even after all the parents' persuasion, she chose to act and make me suffer through all this humiliation that came along with the accusations. The only person I've known my entire life, my little sister, Emily, accused me of sexual harassment. The accusations did not only cause a strain in our relationship as siblings, but it also caused a massive drift in our family as favorites were picked at the expense of honesty. I thought I belonged, and then the accusations started, and I stopped belonging to any lineage. I was just in the wilderness feeding on the mercy of the law, if it all there was. My heart was hurting, but there was no one I could even tell my pain to. They were all busy pointing fingers at me. It was dimorphic and hideous. Just how easy was it to believe someone who had been acting all strange than listening to both sides of the story? 1 year later, I continued to struggle because of this injustice that I got from all those who were supposed to be on my side. I wanted everyone to know they hurt me so bad when they believed her, but again, she was the youngest and always had the easiest way. It somehow made her feel powerful over me in all aspects. Of all things she could accuse me of, she chose the absolute worst one. How was I ever going to rub all that from my future past? It looked like a dream that would never be.
I gritted my teeth and accepted fate.
Somehow I did, but I still felt emotionally strained and broken. Thanks to Jackie, who never left my side, and she became my #1 comforter when the whole world turned blind to my pain. Though the legal process derailed, it eventually cleared me from all the charges. And for over a year, I had a very hard time facing life, as I did way before the unexpected happened. I kept thinking about her and why on earth she had decided to punish me for her insecurities, and I still cannot find the right answers.
Well, you could still teach her a lesson, suggested Jackie.
But we didn't have any we could get back at her. Jackie smiled and promised me to hold and that she would help me one day to get back at her. It felt like noise in my ears as I could not see what she was getting at. At first, we thought that maybe we could make her confess, but no. She was too smart for that. But then one day, she thought to herself she could change for the better after Jackie convinced her that we were better families than enemies.
If only I had a sister like you, or a brother like Charlie, I would be very happy.
Having somebody that you can share your lives with as siblings is awesome. That's what she said, not knowing how far those words cut across Emily's tough heart.
Did he send you? She wondered.
No, come on, you're family. I don't want to see you rise against each other. I would lose more than gain anything from your fallout. She tried to speak sense into her.
I'll think about it,
Emily said, and Jackie gave up after a while, but a few weeks later, Emily came up with a plan and asked Jackie not to tell me about it. She agreed. Days passed and I gave up since Jackie was not updating me on anything. I began thinking that Emily was probably wooing her and would turn against me in due time. Then one evening, the unexpected happened. As I was walking towards my house holding my jacket in my hand, I thought I heard something but ignored it and kept moving. But as soon as I touched the doorknob, a group of people jumped right before me and, well, said in chorus, "Happy birthday, Charlie!" I was shaken and almost fell on the floor. It was the worst surprise of my life, as I didn't have any friends who would even think of visiting me, let alone throw a surprise party. I was still in shock, and I remained standing, waiting to see who had gone out of his or her way to do all this for me. Well, I must admit, my life was not an enjoyable one, and such treats never existed in my dictionary, and that's why it came out as the worst time of my life. Having to find people in my house all in the name of throwing me a party made me wonder what happened to the one rule of letting people have their privacy. I was still confused, but then I noticed a few familiar faces accompanied by more unfamiliar people. I wanted to imagine they had the wrong address, but another thought came to my mind. Whoever these people were, they must have been directed to my house by somebody who knew me so well, since they had even called out my name when they shouted, "Happy birthday!" Of course, they knew where they were and who they were surprising. None of them seemed lost at all. Looking on, I spotted Emily looking at me with her eyes filled with a mixture of emotions. She had a lot to say, but her lips were tied.
Well, they trembled as she gathered the courage to address the matter at hand.
I could tell she was hoping that we opened a new chapter in life and let our siblings' bond rise again. She hugged me tightly and then looked at me with a broad smile that just looked so real. And for a second, I thought I was enjoying the warmest gesture.
Honestly, I didn't know her better.
I would have believed her, but I was too smart to be fooled by her gestures. I looked around quietly, hoping that one of her friends would snitch on her and confirm that she was just pretending to care, but they didn't. The whole house was decorated, and everything simply looked beautiful. I was supposed to be happy that we were trying to get along after a year of zero communication, but I was not moved. To me, she remained the evil sister who planned for my downfall. And the fact that I never really felt did not necessarily mean she was innocent. She was still guilty and charged, and no amount of affection would rub that. Come on, give your sister some credit. Her friends argued when they noticed I was still struggling to keep up. They had no idea what I went through. I said thank you and then walked straight to cut the cake as my sister directed me where to go. She planned it all, and somehow I felt like she just wanted to steal the show and get credit. I let her enjoy her time. She always did want that. Always. I watched her do it like the good old days when she would take center stage and plan things in the house. We loved and admired her, and though we were only 2, we made memorable birthdays, and that was exactly what she was trying to do. The problem was, I was a different person from the one she knew back then.
Well, she changed me.
Well, suddenly I spotted Jackie, and my heart raced in excitement.
It was happening.
"Thank me later," she whispered as she passed me near while singing with the rest of the crew. It was the evidence of the chance I had just been waiting on for, well, it has now presented itself.
And I had just one job to do.
To use the chance wisely, and, well, I can't run out of time. The thought that my sister could be that dumb made me smile to myself foolishly.
She got to me once. I can't let her get to me the second time. I have to use her resources to find out what she intends to do. I could not understand why she would want to be on good terms with me, and as far as I was concerned, it was just one of her many tricks to humiliate me again. The sister I grew up with would never swallow her pride. So, I slouched between my seats and lost myself for a moment. I felt resentful towards Emily, and I could not help but wonder idly. It took me back to the time when she tricked me to go to her room. I felt that there was more than what met the eyes, and I was eager to find out. Looking on, Emily had changed a lot, or so my mother had made me think, and she explained to me over the phone. She believed in second chances. What she didn't know is my relationship with father was never going to be back to normal ever. Of course, no apology would bring that back. Don't hold grudges. Revenge is for the weak. I could hear my mom's words in my head, and I wanted to ignore them because as far as I was concerned, revenge was not for the weak. It was a way of having equal scores because we are all humans and deserve just as much as we give, as no one's more special than the other. I was glad Jackie shared my sentiments too, and the birthday continued. In the birthday package, there was a hearty letter reminding me of all the good things that happened before we fell apart. The great childhood memories that we shared. She had also addressed me as dear brother.
Beautiful, huh? Emily went ahead and apologized for the false accusations and hoped we could bury the hatchet and start all over again. Interestingly, she admitted that she felt bad about what she had done to me in the past and had been going through a hard time since we drifted apart.
She was right. You can never be at peace when you accuse somebody falsely.
And as her friends repeatedly screamed that I make a wish, I whispered,
I want you behind bars.
But I made sure nobody heard. Not even Jackie. It occurred to me that I could use some help with the letter to get justice. Oh yeah, I could. The thought did not even make me feel guilty, and instead it made me realize that there's no connection between me and her, and that we're just two strangers who shared parents. I wish I could tell her on her face that I was done, but I still felt the need to take it slow. The admission to all the wrongdoings made it easier for me to build up a case against her. The fact that I was already planning to take legal action, since she had made her way to my room and decorated it for the scheduled birthday without my knowledge, was already a case of its own. It was illegal and invasive. Everything made my heart beat with joy. It was all I had been waiting for, and the long justice was going to be served as I was going to use the letter against her in the court of law. I was filled with exuberance, and I felt a cloud of pain leave my chest. I was a sign of relief, and I just wanted the moment to last forever. I hugged her and kissed her right on the cheeks. Oh, beautiful sister. I was going to miss her face when justice finally took charge. Jackie walked over to me and wished me a happy birthday. It probably was the most sincere of them all since she, stood by me through the toughest of times. I sang the happy birthday song along with everyone, and then later asked them to leave. It was all good, and I lied. I was glad they came and surprised me. Well, I didn't lie, because I was rather glad they did, as it made the justice process easier since the guilty one brought evidence to me, and now I was going to be free like a bird.
It was time to compare notes with Jackie, and just then Father called. Don't do stupid anything. Don't do it. Ever again. Your sister has apologized, and so should you.
Why should I apologize, Dad?
Emily had been in the wrong all through. It's only that you trusted her so much that you couldn't see how cunning she was. Dad, you believed her, even when I told you I was innocent. I think it's time I made it known to the world just how mean she can be.
I let it. I've struggled to let it out, and I felt great. I don't want him to second-guess me and try to show me his, quote, princess has messed me up, so I hang up and continue to pursue justice.
My way.
I was ready to start the process since the letter served as a legally admissible confession of her, false allegations against me. Secondly, her breaking into my house and doing all the decor and surprising me gave me grounds to sue her for trespassing. Well, I sued her for defamation, emotional stress, and trespassing. Long story short, the courts ruled in my favor. Emily faced the consequences of her actions, and she was going in for a long time. She's still your sister, you know, and blood has always been thicker than water.
That was all I could hear from her friends when justice was finally served. Right. I didn't say she wasn't, did I?
They had no idea the things I've overcome to get to stand before them. I wanted it to be a lesson to all of them for trying to scrub pain using a hard stone. I had been hurt already, and the least I wanted was for anyone to remind me of family ties. If the ties were as strong as they were trying to paint them, none of that could have happened in my family. But it did, and I paid dearly for it. It was time for my beautiful sister to carry her cross. Later on, "We're family, brother," I heard her say when she left the courtroom. "No, we're just familiar faces."
"This is not over. You'll pay for it."
"Well, I know it isn't," I said as I left the courts moments later. The future's bright, or maybe it isn't, I don't know. But whichever the case, false accusations are not good amongst siblings.
I can see my mother and dad aren't happy with my actions, but Dad doesn't say much either. But he agrees with Emily's fate as she went too far this time.
Alright guys, so the comment section in this story was crazy. I mean, Emily, wow. They did not like her in the comment section. I would like to hear from you guys. So drop your comments down below. Let's discuss what exactly you would do to clear your name of this obvious misconception of what you did to your sister. Here's one of the commenters. Comment 1 says, and by the way, this is before any of the updates. On the original post, comment 1 says, oh man, sibling rivalry at its finest. It just sounds like Emily has some serious insecurities that she's projecting onto you. It's great that you tried to help her, but sometimes people need to come to terms with their issues on their own. Have you tried talking to her about how you feel and setting boundaries? Yeah, we know how that went. And here's comment 2 that just says, sheesh, Emily sounds like a real piece of work. I think your parents need to step up and stop enabling her in toxic behavior. Maybe even some family counseling. So guys, a lot of those comments were posted on the original post and not many on the updates of the other updates that came after. So let me know in your opinion, how would you go about handling this dilemma? Drop your comments down below, and if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing for daily videos. And by the way, I try to put every single update. Guys, have a great day and I'll see you tomorrow.